Hey everybody, thank you for joining me. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button. You will have already seen, if you are a subscriber, I've done a 5 things I love about my 2010 Yamaha XJ6 Diversion. Well, now it's time for the 5 things that I hate. Now I'm going to say here, hate is a very strong word, and I don't actually hate, but okay, let's get on with it. The number one thing that stands out on this bike as something I don't like is the suspension. Now this bike is sold as a sports tourer. If you're unaware, the engine is a detuned R6 engine. But the suspension is not sports bike like. This is, as I say, it's a sports tourer, but it's definitely much more of the tourer than the sports because, you know, motorway miles, comfortable, round town, brilliant. When you start pushing it, you start to realise some of its softnesses, some of its flaws. If the road's a good condition, it's not too bad, actually. The front's a little soft, the rear sinks a little. It's not too bad. When you get into a corner and you really load up the rear, you do feel it sink down quite a way. That's just something I've come to get used to. But the problem comes when you're on a country road that's bumpy and you're trying to ride fast, or faster. It makes it a little bit unnerving at times, maybe. It's because it's got the soft suspension, and when you go over bumps, it makes the whole bike jiggle around quite a lot, and it doesn't feel as planted as something with firmer suspension, you know, something that's much more sporty. So it's not bad, and I do like the fact that it's very comfortable because that's what this bike is for. It's as a workhorse, but equally I wouldn't mind if the suspension was just a little bit firmer. I might look at adjusting the preload on the rear. I'm going to make sure that everything's in spec and as it should be. This bike has done 50-something thousand miles. I don't know when the fluid was last changed in the forks. It's probably time it gets done. But yeah, everyone has a common complaint with this bike, which is that the suspension is not really that sporty. But then again, can you complain about a sports tourer having non-sports suspension? That's kind of the whole point. I guess it's the balance of how far you go between the two. But there you go, there's number 1. But remember, these are in no particular order, though I probably would actually put that at number 1. Number 2 on my list is very simple. This bike has a nickname, other than DIVI, obviously Diversion DIVI, is the ball cooker. Because this thing in the summer is horrendous to ride. It is so hot in this area. Obviously you've got all the engine just here, and when you're sat in the summer in your leathers, you bake like nothing else. My DRZ is fantastic in the summer, you know, you're miles away from the engine, you've got nice cool airflow, but this bike, when you stop at a set of lights or something, the bike heats up fast. It gets up to like 80-90 degrees. That's perfectly normal from what I understand from other people who've got these bikes. But the problem is you've also got like, well, they're not vents, but it's this area here. And as you pull away, well, there are vents around here actually. When you pull away, all of the heat from that engine is then directly straight round here into your balls. Maybe people have different amounts of acceptance to heat and stuff, but this one is pretty hot. Though I have to say the Hayabusa was probably hotter. Okay, one of the things I said in my 5 things I love about this bike is the sound this bike makes, because it has got this Black Widow exhaust system on it. It's a full system, and it sounds, it's a total game changer for this bike. It goes from whizzy space bike to screaming banshee. However, as you may have seen in the past, I had this exhaust down here. This is a mid-pipe extra connector you can get to put the exhaust at the back that Black Widow sent me when they sent me this for the review. I've got a whole video on that, 2 videos in fact, on that exhaust system. You can have it in a configuration with this can just under here and it just sticks out, and I really like that look. I'm quite tempted to go back to it. But the thing is, when you put that down there, you can't have the centre stand on the bike, so I took the centre stand off the bike. So basically, if you have it underslung, you cannot have a centre stand, but you can use a paddock stand. If you have it on the side, you can't use a paddock stand, you'll have to refit the centre stand if you want to have it off the floor, which I do want to do. So I'm currently in a dilemma, which is, do I leave it where it is and put the centre stand back on, adding a couple of kilos to this bike? Not really the end of the world, it's about 200 and something kilos anyway. Or do I put the exhaust back underneath, make it a little bit louder than it was, and be able to use a normal paddock stand, which is obviously, well, it's not as good as a centre stand, because you can use centre stands to park the bike on, and that's handy at times. I don't know. I'm feeling like the centre stand's probably going back on for now, and then I'll see if I hate it so much that I go back. Now, as I've done my other videos, when I say my top 5 things that I love or hate, it's about my actual bike. So sometimes it'll be something that's specific to this bike. Sometimes it's general and you can apply it to all, but sometimes it's just this bike. And this, being number 4, is indeed just my bike. although I get the feeling it's probably not just my bike. When we did change that exhaust system, the header bolts were as soft as slightly dried chewing gum. They just, the heads came off them. Now, of the 8 bolts, we managed to get 7 of them out using a stud extractor. We got very lucky with a couple of them, but one of them snapped just below the surface line, and then we tried to use a tap out to get it out, and that snapped in it. And now that's still embedded in my header hole, and it's only held on by 7 bolts. And I don't think I've actually mentioned this more than once or twice over the years, so most of you probably don't realise. As I say, it only has 7 bolts in the header. One of the pipes is only being held on by 1 bolt. It's been an advisory on my MOTs ever since, and it's not caused a problem. It's not leaking in any way, shape or form. I think that's because it's being held on in place, and it was a good fitting exhaust anyway. It's got gaskets in there, using 7 of the 8 bolts, and we have actually cranked down, not hard, but that one enough that it's not leaking in the slightest, and hasn't in years. So that's not obviously the best way of doing these things. You would rather get that out, but the problem is, as I say, is we have a tap out, one of the extractors, shall we say, broken off in it, which is hardened steel. I am going to look into it. The best option would be to pay someone to remove it. There is someone locally known as the Thread Doctor, and he is an absolute genius with getting these sorts of things done. I know all the tips and tricks of getting them out, trust me, and I know all the ways of dissolving them and all of that stuff. I know how I could do it myself, but sometimes with a job that important, giving someone 80 quid, 100 quid or something to get it done, when it's his speciality, is not a bad idea. But I might have a go at it myself. I haven't looked at it in a long time. It's kind of been like, it's fine, just ignore it. So yeah, on my list, one of the things I hate about this bike is the fact that I know there is only 7 header bolts, and one of them's got a snapped off bolt with a bit of an extractor stuck in it. Doesn't matter, but I just know it's there and it's not right. And number 5, the very last one on my list, is something that's tiny, and it really doesn't matter, but it's something that annoys me because I don't know how it happened. There is a scratch, which maybe I'll get a picture of to show you, here. It is tiny, but it is quite deep. I don't remember doing that. I don't remember anyone doing it to my bike, which means I'm thinking it probably happened in a bike parking area somewhere, because I tend to only park in bike parking areas. So I could have been, I mean, I suppose it could have been a stone chip, but it just looks like someone might have bumped their handlebar into it as they were going backwards or something. I don't know. But it annoys me because of where it is, and also because it's so deep that to fill it and have it covered up, I'm probably not going to do a great job myself. Maybe I'll try it as a challenge, you know, what does it really matter? It's just an old XJ6. I could just use some white paint and you probably wouldn't see it, but you would notice a depth difference. It's just something that annoys me, but it's not that important. So you might see here that I actually don't have a huge lot that I really hate about this bike. And, you know, the suspension's probably not even fair to say that I hate it because, well, it's not that bad, it's just it's not sporty. But then why did I buy this bike if I was after a sports bike, you know? This is an absolute brilliant workhorse. I know it's not the most exciting thing in the world, I know it's not the most inspiring, and I know there are some better options out there, but I'm happy with my DIVI. She is a good workhorse, she's done me proud, and I'm sure she'll do me proud for many more years to come. Well, there we go, we have come to an end. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, I'd really appreciate it. Hit the subscribe button if you're not subscribed, and consider joining my Patreon if you can. I'll catch you next time. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to hit the like button and subscribe to see future videos. This channel is made possible by the support of the audience. Please consider joining my Patreon to get early access to videos, questions answered in the monthly Q&A, your name on screen, and some exclusive content, all for as little as $1 a month. You can also check out the links in the description to my merch and other ways to directly support the channel. Thanks for watching.